been a long time since I played the Sliver Queen deck, and I thought I'd go back to it. I need a break from Edric for a while. I will bring up the deck list at the end of the series of games here, as usual. And what I did was I recorded 11 games straight with the Queen deck. Actually, in this one here that's marked match, it's actually a single game because the other guy kind of gets tired of playing against me. So, without further ado, we'll go ahead and get started. I'm going to click through these somewhat quickly, or we'll be here all day. So the first game is Sliver Queen against Daxos, and this hand is a strong keep. So I lead off with Command Tower into Brainstorm, and get down with Soul Ring Felwar. I was hoping he'd play a white mana source at the end of his turn. I would sack this, and in response I would tithe. He didn't play white for me, so I just wait until I draw the top card of my library, sack it, and in response tithe. Trick is just hold down control, activate the sack, and then before you resolve the search, you can go ahead and tithe there. So I play Thran Dynamo, the Abyss, with a Force of Will backup, and my opponent, who has 2 mana to my 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and an Abyss, gives up. So game 2, I'm playing against a mono green Jedit Ojanin of a Frava deck, and I decided to keep a weak keep, I guess. When my opponent leads off with turn 1 Soul Ring, I'm feeling a lot better about having that grudge in my hand. So he plays turn 2 Elder, and I'm able to smash the ring, which puts him in an interesting spot, because if he doesn't have a land in his hand and he sacks the Elder, he'll go up to 9 cards and then play a land as 8 and have to discard. If he has a land in his hand, that won't happen, but luckily he does not, so in order to continue to develop, I'm actually taking a card away from him that he would have otherwise been able to keep, unless he has a play. So he has Map. Fortunately, I've got Grudge, so we take care of Map right away in Demonic Tutor for a Soul Ring, which I'm able to play off the mana floating. So he's playing plenty of artifacts. Kind of wish I still had that Grudge in a way, but it's okay. Minimizing Queen. So my opponent decides not to play his commander here and plays his Genesis, and so I go ahead and just remand it back to his hand. An Impulse, selecting Strip Mine, and then he plays Dryad. I thought he would go ahead and play Genesis again, but he Dryads for an Arbor, casts an Oracle, revealing a Sculpting Steel. So, end of turn, I just draw a bunch of cards. Get down with Karn, take a card out of his hand. He gives me Genesis, interesting choice there. So now, if he attacks Karn, 2, 3, 4, 5, if he's able to play his commander and equip it, he could attack Karn for 10 total, assuming I didn't counter, which I probably would not. But I have a Regrowth in hand, so it's okay. He plays Steel Hellkite using an Arbor, so he can now not kill Karn in one swing, which is a big deal. And actually, Hellkite, if he's not hitting me, it's not going to trigger the ability, so he's not even going to kill my Mox here. So, sad for him, but I'm going to Terminus. So clear out his board. Karn a card from his hand, strip one of his lands so that he can't cast his commander and equip it next turn. Regrowth Stroke, and I still have a Force of Will mana ready to go. He gives up. So this guy, I'm playing Wolby, playing a Mail the Anima deck. And I lead off with, I keep a modest hand. It's got Grudge to deal with early Soul Ring, and it's got Tundra for card drawing, going second. It's more consistent. So he doesn't have Ring, but he's got Scroll Rack and Boots. I'll go ahead and get myself some end refill. Plays his commander. See no better target, so I'll go ahead and just kill his Boots. Get down with the land ready for Fact or Fiction. Plays like a Dream Hunter. It makes perfect sense in his deck. It's not good against me though. He splits the piles like this, and although the Abyss, in a land is pretty good, I take this super ramp hand because I've got everything I need to win. I just want to get it in play. So Tap my lands here. I'm meant to play Sylvan this turn, so I'm only able to play Jace and Tez, but not Jace, Tez, Sylvan. As it turns out, it doesn't matter. He gives up. So, Queen facing Ghost Council of Orzhov, and I have a strong keep. Leading off with crazy amounts of mana. And finding myself an Imperial Seal. So I'll go ahead and just set myself up with a Mind Twist. But before we do that, let's get rid of that land tax. There's no point in twisting him if he's going to refill. And he gives up. So, looks like we've got the little playback glitch. My opponent's playing the Evil Zura the Enchanter. I think it says the Evil on that card somewhere. So I take a mulligan and mulligan into this hand. Top deck myself a Tomb, so I'm able to play first turn Crucible. He doesn't, I guess he's got all non-basics. I asked him about it later, so he gives up. This guy's playing, another guy added to my banned list here, because he's one of those pukes who likes to, quit in the middle of the game. He sets up a match, doesn't like how the match goes, and so he disappears forever. It's kind of funny. So anyway, I lead off with turn 1, Gilded Lotus, Brainstorm, Scroll Rack. He just charges his Slag Heap, and I get turn 2, set myself up with a land tax, and a top. And he has no artifact kill at this point, so I just start drawing 3 cards a turn. And funny thing is, if you're watching, I actually haven't played a second land yet. Even though I have that Crucible out, even though it's like turn 4, and even though I've drawn 3 lands per turn last turn, I just haven't gotten around to getting that second land into play. I've got better things to do at the moment, which is fine. Just means that when I start playing lands, I'll have more time to land tax later. So I'll go ahead and pay life with Sylvan, because what I need is more cards. The Future Sight to go with my top. So I've got Tax Track, Sylvan, Future Sight, top going, because what I need is more cards. What I always need is more cards. So he vesses me. Strangely ineffective against somebody drawing 7 cards per turn or more. So anyway, go ahead and just tax into a whole bunch of cards, Sylvan up even more cards, set myself up with crazy Future Sight shenanigans, getting rid of his vest there, and discard some excess lands that I had. He plays a threat I don't care about. Kill his Soul Ring. After specking last turn into Deep Analysis, because what I needed was more cards. Deep Ray Grudge, that is. I'm going to go and set myself up. Just develop. Throwing away Tithe and a land. So, yeah. He finally plays his Vest, which allows me to counter it. He's got 1 more land than me, so I get 1 more hit off the land tax. An Impulse String my upkeep, since it's on the top, and I'm able to play it before I draw it, and now I start destroying his mana base. So I set up a Terminus right on top of my deck, and pass the turn. After playing a Karn and killing one of his lands in a wasteland, I discard Factor Fiction and Stroke of Genius. When your opponent has this much mana in play and they discard Factor Fiction and Stroke of Genius, it's probably time to right-click and scoop. Anyway, he spends all his time buffing his guy, even casts spells on it. It's really foolish when I have a freaking top in play and a Terminus on top of my deck that he sees with Future Sight. Well, whatever, so I own him with Terminus, and then Tezzeret, and then he goes for the stall and scoop. I mean, when he realizes that I'm not going to give up, he stalls, he disappears, and finally he loses due to inaction, instead of, losing from the Tezzeret that was going to hit him for 50 plus damage. So we move on to the next game. Queen versus Nath of the Gilt Leaf. And I win the roll, I believe, yep. draw a Terminus. It's not always happy times when you do that, but it is okay. Many ways to put it back in this deck. So he just loses a lot of tempo with his rot farm getting stripped away. I'm able to test throwing away a shop and picking up a map. And then this turn, I just play a queen, Crucible lock him, and he gives up. Not that it was a lock. I mean, he was playing green and black. He could have killed it, but apparently he had no answers. So next I'm playing against Vorinclex. I have to mulligan to an excellent hand. Decide not to go with first turn ring and a chalice because I'm anticipating chalicing for 2. So those creatures start dying. I get the chalice for 2 down. And with that mystical tutor in hand, that chalice for 2 is like 2 cards due to Stroke of Genius. So anyway, end of turn. However, with his play of the Lotus, I figure I'm concerned with him drawing too many cards, or having too much mana rather. So I go ahead and Deep Grudge Mystical Teachings, which I anticipate playing for a Stroke of Genius, and play a land to kill his Lotus. He plays Oblivion Stone. Fortunately, I draw a Wasteland, so unless he has a land, he's not going to be able to use that next turn. But I'm going to assume that he can. So I draw up, and I've got 6 mana exactly for Teachings. Now, Stroke isn't looking as good if he's got the activation for a stone, which he does, so I go ahead and fetch myself a Mana Drain to go with that Yawgmoth's Will in my hand. Lose my Soul Ring and Chalice. And then I can just... Eventually I'm going to Mana Drain something, and then I'm going to Will into Wasteland, Chalice, Soul Ring, the Abyss, Mystical Tutor, go. So he plays nothing. I play nothing. He plays nothing. I top deck Isochron. So now the Mana Drain is under an Isochron. It's like flipping an Arrayo in the Edric deck. My opponent decides to disappear for 8 minutes until he gets the warning, then he comes back for a couple of turns. Meanwhile, I've actually already started new games. These people who do this don't actually delay me, they just cause me to have to flip back and forth between games while I play somebody else. So I don't really understand the point of it other than, being irritating, which, it's modestly irritating. Anyway, I get down with Queen. And so after I played Queen, he disconnects, so I laugh and say it's the last resort of the incompetent, add him to my block list. But he decides he's going to come back. It's all a trick to get me to give up so that he can come back and feel like he won when it says I quit. Unfortunately for him, I don't quit. So I just make a couple of slivers, start smashing his face in. Still hanging out. Regrow my mystical tutor, and finally the guy makes the play he should have made like 3 turns ago when he started all the DC business. Right click and concede. Have some freaking sportsmanship, people. So, my opponent playing Lazov gets to go first. His stuff will be at the bottom of the screen thanks to the glitch, but at least we're not glitching out in game so far. So he doesn't play a land, so I'm not able to end a turn Tithe for value, but I top deck Mox Diamond, which allows me to do the Tithe trick with a sack land and end the turn. I don't get green even though I've got the Sylvan since I anticipate sacking 4 green. So Brainstorm into Mindstone, Ice is land. I don't have a counter, so I don't really want to walk into one, so I gotta just go and fetch. Declare my attack step, and after combat, play Sylvan. He plays a Tournament during my upkeep. I Mana Drain it so that I'll have the mana, pay the life off the Sylvan, use the mana from his Turnabout to play a Chalice and a Lotus. That's the turn. Plays Mind Shrieker and then just uses it blindly, flipping over a land. Okay. So I fetch and set myself up with the Limdol's Vault at the end of his turn. 3 cards that I want, pay life for all of them. And play Staff, shooting his Shrieker, kill his land, play a Karn, kill his land, pass the turn with 2 mana up, got a Crucible in hand, strip mine in the graveyard, my opponent gives up. So, Nine Inch Nails here playing Ragnar. There's no reason to play that creature ever. Gives up in the face of a crazy good start. Fine. And because he did, I was trying to play 10 games for this video, but that last game sucked, so I play one more, and I have the perfect hand minus a land, decide I'm not going to risk it, and mulligan into the not perfect hand, mulligan into no good, mulligan into I'm running out of mulligans, and this hand will win if I draw any mana, so I keep it. Two different winning cards here. So unfortunately I miss a land on the first try, second try, and then I get a shop, and he does me a huge favor and ghost quarters it. I was thinking about holding it in case I drew Mox Diamond, but then I thought, now play it now. That way, if I draw an artifact that produces mana, I can tap this to play that artifact, tap both of them, cast Demonic Tutor, and then fetch myself up some mana, and then play Sylvan. Regardless, he kills my shop with Ghost Quarter, which means I am in the game. And I decided not to kill his Death Greeter. I thought he was going to clamp it and I'd kill it in response. But then I realized, I need the mana for Sylvan, so I just let it sit around. And he just hits me with it, which is cool. I still find no lands, so I go get one. Hits me again. It's kind of like taking cards from me with the Sylvan, but he said to clamp his guy, so I vamp for a mana drain, and go ahead and play a Chalice. Mana drain his Lotus. Oh, we are in business. Paying life again, so I can keep hitting land drops. And I go ahead and will. I actually didn't need to pay life this turn because I have land in the graveyard, but I go ahead and will. Casting Gilded Lotus, replaying the shop, or fetching Gilded Lotus, replaying the shop, replaying the vamp, icing his thing, and locking him down. And that is the game. So there is Turbo Queen. And I have often put up these long, sluggish games with Queen in the past, probably giving the idea that the deck is slow, but as you can see, it certainly is not. It is still probably one of the most powerful decks in the format. It is also strangely one of the fairest decks in the format, because although it has all these different broken cards and scenarios that it can set up, the commander isn't really that good for what this deck's trying to do. It attacks and kills in 3 hits. It can block and attack at the same time. It can block pro colors, but there's no opposition in here. There's no Skull Clamp in here. There's no Gaia's Cradle in here. Like, the new Queen deck was able to not just use Sliver Queen, but abuse her. The old Queen deck really doesn't have that level of abuse available to it from the commander, and the best commander decks all do. The Edric deck abuses him, Zur abuses him, Azami abuses, Nin abuses. If you're playing one of the other commanders, like you might be playing, say, the green, black, white guy, there's the Mimeoplasm who abuses its commander. There's a few others. They all basically capitalize on the strength of being able to play the commander. Well, this deck can't do that. So it's the fairest, it's the most broken deck out there among the fair decks. And if you were to go through and ban all the commanders that draw extra cards, because really, the majority of commanders that are actually worth a damn all draw extra cards. But if you were to ban them all, then this would be, I think, the best deck. However, that's probably never going to happen. And so in that sense, this deck most likely is not the best. It is, however, very fun and skill testing, very challenging, because it requires you to make constant decisions. If you have a first turn Imperial Seal, what do you get? There isn't one right answer. Sometimes it's Soul Ring, sometimes it's Land Tax, sometimes it's Sylvan Library, sometimes it's Mana Drain. Sometimes you Imperial Seal for Quiet Speculation. Sometimes you Imperial Seal for Mishra's Workshop. So sometimes you go get, Strip Mine. There just isn't one right answer. And when you compound the fact that that decision making has to happen again and again and again and again, and again and again and again and again and again and again and again. Well, this is the hardest deck to play in the format, I think. But in that sense, it can be very rewarding and, as you saw, very powerful. That's all I have for today, or at least for now. So thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed these games, and I'll see you next time.